Farming Life in Another World. Season 2 is here. Subscribe now and welcome, my old viewers. Continuing from the story of Season 1, check my old video in the description and pin comments. Hiraku Machio's wives are very diligent in working every day, and of course, they satisfy their lust every day with Hiraku, who has unlimited stamina. It seems that many children have been born to Hiraku's wives, and they are a big, happy family. Literally a big family. Various races live in Taiju Village, and I can't even mention them all, because there are too many. Every day they work hard to make the village more developed. In fact, there are almost 100 prospective immigrants who want to come here. Hiraku's wives are getting busier, and Hiraku also doesn't stop giving his wives the imbalance of playing in bed every night. In the village meeting, Hiraku wants to create another village specifically for newcomers who want to visit there. Ria, Hiraku's third elf wife, immediately looks for a location to build a new village. Meanwhile, Hiraku's other wives prepare food supplies, house building materials, etc. Hiraku even invited his beloved wives to practice welcoming the arrival of prospective immigrants who would be living there. Afterward, Hiraku tried a new dish made by Anne, his fourth wife maid, and the other maids' wives. The new dish was perfect for eating straight away because it was predominantly vegetable-based. In the real world, it could be called vegetable kebab. Rurushi, Hiraku's first wife, suggested giving this dish to the trio of foolish girls. It was nutritious enough for administrative workers like them. Tia, Hiraku's second wife, agreed with Rurushi's suggestion, and Hiraku was the one to deliver the food to the trio of foolish girls, or what we now call the civil officer girls. The civil officer girls were exhausted from their continuous, non-stop work, and Hiraku's food was a breath of fresh air. Just for your information, in case you forgot the story from Season 1, the civil officer girls are a group of female demons who were once followers of Princess Yuri and now work for Taiju Village. The group is led by Frau, Hiraku's wife. They are all from the Demon Kingdom nobility, educated from a young age in politics and administration. Lastasmun, Hakuren, and Flora, Hiraku's wives, also helped with the very busy administrative work. Although they complained, it wasn't a big deal as long as it allowed the village to progress and unbalance the endless bedlust games. Shortly afterward, Frau, Hiraku's wife, arrived with reinforcements from the Demon Kingdom. These young women were very competent in administrative work. I can't bear to name them all, as they will most likely be Hiraku's next wives. Hiraku left Frau with food for them to take a break from work later. The civil officer girls had now increased to a total of 8. And as usual, when the new civil officer girls went into the field to check on the village, they fainted upon seeing Kuroyuki and Zabuton. They were friendly, though, and Zabuton even greeted them. The slimes also worked well, and Gran Maria, Hiraku's ninth wife, reported that she had patrolled and found no danger. Ria then invited Hiraku to see the location of the new village she had discovered. It was located downstream from the river, and the village would be built a little further from the river to prevent rebellion. This was just a precaution, as they didn't know what kind of people the prospective immigrants would be. Hiraku's wife had to consider any potential situation. Of course, there were 2 large trees at the new village's location, signifying that this second village belonged to Hiraku. Hiraku's wives, construction workers from the lizard race and other races, and Hiraku immediately got to work on the new village project. Of course, Hiraku cut down trees with the power of his all-purpose farming tool, and in an instant, he was able to clear the forest to provide a path to the second village. The wood from the trees was used to build a simple wooden bridge across the river. They couldn't have made it any better for the village's safety, as Taiju Village was located in the middle of the forbidden forest. Several days and weeks passed, and Hiraku had expanded the area of the second village and had also built a water channel from the upstream of Taiju Village to the second village. The lizard chief then told Hiraku to rest to refresh his mind and let the lizard workers continue the construction. Instead, Hiraku built a statue of Zabuton there, and the Zabuton children greatly appreciated it. Not long afterward, Rurushi, holding her newborn baby, saw her beloved there. Hiraku apologized for not resting for a while. Therefore, the workaholic Hiraku rested and cuddled with Rurushi there. Next, Hiraku supervised his elf wives and lizard workers in building many houses. All the wood materials were sufficient, and all that was left was to build them into houses. Hiraku briefly recalled the days when he was first reincarnated into this world. He had a very difficult time building a house, and in the end, he only made a simple hut. But from there, Rurushi received a lot of help from Hiraku and ended up becoming his beloved wife. Rurushi felt nostalgic when remembering those beautiful past times. Yes, even though she was first found by Hiraku in the form of a naked loli, Rurushi was still able to satisfy her lust in her mature, breast-filled form with Hiraku. That aside, how did Hiraku's wives work to build the houses? You can see for yourself this clip.
大丈夫ですか?
Shortly thereafter, Maria reported to Hiraku that Lord Dorame would be visiting Hiraku unexpectedly soon. Dorame apologized to Hiraku for his sudden visit, and he introduced the immigrants from the Minotaur race to Hiraku. Gordon, the representative of the Minotaur race, introduced himself, and Hiraku was shocked by the Minotaur race's extremely tall stature, standing at around 2 meters tall. Gordon explained that they had been driven out of the village and had been wandering, and the Minotaur wives and children were severely undernourished. That's why Dorame had suddenly come to Hiraku. Without further ado, Hiraku's maids immediately prepared a nutritious porridge meal for the immigrants. Anne apologized to Hiraku for not knowing the Minotaur race's dietary habits. One of the lizard race workers said he had lived with them in the Minotaur race's village, so he could be in charge of the food. However, Tia pointed out that there was one more issue Hiraku needed to consider. The size of the house wasn't suitable for the Minotaur race's height. It would be a shame if they had to live so cramped. Therefore, Hiraku gave them temporary accommodation in his grand house. Ria also mentioned that the grand inn in the village was also full of Minotaurs. One problem wasn't resolved, but Frau suddenly told Hiraku about another. There was a newcomer who was brought by his father to the second village. Her father was extremely exhausted due to the sudden change in the situation on the battlefield. It took multiple teleportation spells to evacuate many people, and he would be staying in Taiju village first. Hiraku was worried about his father-in-law's condition and told Frau to take him to rest in Hiraku's luxurious room. It turned out the newcomer was Centaur race, a half-human, half-horse. This was impossible. If they were to become Hiraku's next wives, it was getting even more absurd. The representative of the Centaur race, Gruwald, immediately introduced herself and her status to Hiraku. It was known that the Centaur race was the nobility of the Demon Kingdom, and she spoke a little rudely to Hiraku. But Hiraku did not understand the etiquette of the nobility. Therefore, he called one of the civil officer girls named Rishashi to welcome and serve the Centaur race. Rishashi's family background was very good and had close ties with Viscount Baig in the western region, because she was the second daughter of Count Doroa's family from the Demon Kingdom. She warned Gruwald to watch her behavior in this village if she prioritized comfort over commotion. Rishashi immediately spoke privately with Gruwald because she had spoken rudely to Hiraku. Bang, bang, bang. Rishashi taught her a lesson and explained a unique fact about Hiraku. Rishashi understood that Gruwald was in a hurry to find a place to live, but she had to respect Hiraku because he was the ruler of this region. The Demon King, all the demons, all race, even high-ranking nobles like the Frau family and Rishashi were inferior to the humble Hiraku. He was the strongest and most invincible among them. Of course, Gruwald was very surprised because all the strongest races and the strongest status were so subservient to Hiraku. Because of that, Gruwald apologized to Rishashi and Hiraku. Gruwald's noble status was far below Rishashi's. Then Rishashi decided to take care of the Centaur race so that Hiraku wouldn't be bothered. Hiraku asked, "Are you okay? How is your family? It seems like there was a big war there, and how are you?" Let him cook, guys. He wanted to add another wife, it seems. Rishashi's heart was happy and appreciated Hiraku's concern for her, and Rishashi stated that she and her family were fine. After that, the same problem as before. The house in the second village was too small for the Centaur race to live in. Imagine, they had planned everything beforehand to avoid any future problems. But in reality, a ridiculous problem like this befell Hiraku and his wives. Even Ria had given up hope on the future goals of this second village if it wasn't going to be useful. What the hell? The Centaurs were forced to temporarily live in the southern dungeon with the Lamia race. Speaking of the Lamia race, half-snake humans, they had encountered young sexy girls with full boobies who were leisurely strolling through this forbidden forest. Therefore, to prevent anything bad from happening, the Lamia race immediately brought the girls, whom you can count yourself, to Taiju village. But unfortunately, the young girls couldn't speak yet, and I imagined plant many seeds the middle of the night with them in complete silence without shouts of, "Oh yes, oh no, deeper baby." A tree stump representing the young girls named Igu, thanked Hiraku and his wives for welcoming them into this village. It was revealed that the young girls were the Anicaps race, or a kind of tree spirit in human form. They possessed the ability to disguise themselves as trees, to avoid the ferocious monsters in the Forbidden Forest. Igu explained that their native forest had been flooded due to humans cutting down too many trees. Igu learned about Taiju village from the merchant Michael, and they quickly made their way there at a leisurely pace. When Hiraku and his wives wanted to prepare food for them, Igu told them not to worry. The Anicaps race had their own way of surviving, such as this: simply standing still like trees to obtain nutrients from the fertile, hydrated soil, and they didn't need houses or shelter. Even bathing and even getting their clothes wet was to replenish their body's water levels. From morning to night until the next morning, this race remained stationary. Damn, by the way, the centaurs race ended up living temporarily in a cowshed. Hiraku and his wives deeply regretted the useless project of building a second village. They had to immediately provide the Minotaur and Centaur races with their own homes, and even provide clothing and daily necessities. Rhea, who had been feeling weak for a while, tried to work up the energy to design a large house for the two races. 72 magnificent houses for the Minotaur race and 104 houses for the Centaur race.